Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally and today I'm going to start this video off with a little bit of a story. So I was watching another convention video and they introduced someone as a helper to the teaching committee. So I thought, oh look, a new governing body helper. How exciting. And they've been lacking in the melanin department. I think I even made a video maybe a couple of years ago going over everyone and the pictures I could find of them. And I can't even remember exactly, but it was like 95 or 97% of them were all old white guys. So we got a new black dude here in the upper echelons of Watchtower. When they introduced this, I thought, oh, you know what? They'll probably feature him in a JW broadcasting episode pretty soon because Watchtower always works in this really expeditious timeline. Oh, they have a new governing body member. Boom, he's gonna have a do a governing body update. So I'm like, oh, it is the start of June. Wouldn't it be hilarious if this guy is already on there as the host of the June broadcast, even though it's not really the host because it's just the Gilead graduation, but you know, he could dip his little toesies in there. So I hopped over to jw.org and sure enough, there he was. So Sam Hurd, watch your back. It looks like you got a replacement here, and Michael Banks. I think I already forgot his name. I think it was Michael Banks. Anyway, they couldn't have picked a more boring husk, just a soulless person. The talk he was giving, I was absolutely bored out of my mind. But hey, I got to work on a few projects in the meantime. But at the end of his talk, there was something that was kind of a whopper, because he was introducing a video that is talking about how Jehovah's Witnesses remain separate from the world, how they have a neutral stance. And he wanted to bring in some history. And as someone that has spent a decent amount of time being, some might call it, obsessed with Watchtower history, I don't think we can call this history. This is the whitewashing revisionist history that is synonymous with Watchtower. So let's talk about it. So the first part of his talk is fairly unremarkable. We don't even have to play any clips or anything from that, but he does introduce a common scenario that Jehovah's Witnesses might find themselves in.
Jesus taught that his kingdom is no part of this world. So if we are following Jesus, we're supporters of that kingdom, we must avoid any activity, including employment, that violates our neutral stand toward human government. So that means that we would not learn war anymore in harmony with Isaiah chapter 2, verse 4. And we would refuse to get involved with politics. But have you seen that in recent times, it's becoming increasingly difficult to avoid these uncomfortable discussions? Perhaps we're at work or at school, even in the supermarket, or maybe we're with unbelieving relatives.
So he calls it a difficult scenario, but for normal people, it's not difficult. But unfortunately, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you can't have an opinion, honestly, about much of anything. So when politics comes up, if you're trying to even remain in the middle or just talking about it, he wants to portray this as, oh man, this can be a difficult situation. Oh man, what do? You're at the supermarket and someone asks you, about X political issue. You can't have an opinion on it. And that's what's so weird, is you don't have to participate in something to be able to look at a situation and form an opinion about it. But Jehovah's Witnesses aren't even allowed to do that. They can't participate in anything unless, of course, the Watchtower organization asks them to. Because we do have records of them doing a letter writing campaign to Vladimir Putin. Yep. Trying to lobby the government of Russia. They are more than happy to sue the government of Norway for taking away their religious status. So if the organization is going to be facing any type of monetary losses or any acquisition of their assets or having to pay taxes or losing out on government funding or just, if it's a Tuesday and they think this might be a bad PR move, they are more than happy to sue any government and get themselves right in the middle of any political debate, which has always been a fascinating and curious thing for me because their entire doctrine is predicated on this idea that Watchtower, the organization, is going to be persecuted by governments, that when world governments start attacking religion, that's going to be a signal for the end of the world. So I would think that you wouldn't want to interfere with that. The more you see governments attacking religion, you would start shaking your hands like, oh yeah, the end is right around the corner. So it's so two-faced whenever they get attacked by a government or religion is being attacked by government. Oh no, we need to go to the European Court of Human Rights. This is ridiculous. We have to protect religious freedom. And yet their entire end times chronology is predicated on the very idea of governments attacking religion. Anyway, riddle me that with that one, but let's continue.
There are hot-button social and moral and political issues that come up, and they want to pressure us to say and what we feel, to take a side.
So because Jesus supposedly said, I am no part of the world and you will be no part of the world, that was a sign of how you'd be able to identify his followers in the year 2025 of our Lord and Savior. Jehovah's Witnesses don't get involved in politics. But notice what he did there? He kind of just slid something right in, which Watchtower always does. Moral and social issues are not the same as political issues. I mean, there's some crossover there, but where's the scriptural basis behind, hey, let's not talk about morality? I would think it would be quite the opposite of that, because Watchtower is always holding itself up, propping itself up, if I'm honest, on this idea that they are morally clean. So I think you would have people being able to form a lot of opinions about morality. So essentially, I think what he really is trying to signal to any Jehovah's Witnesses, or, I mean, he's following an outline or a script, so whoever wrote the script to this, which I guess he's a helper to the teaching committee, so it very well could have been him, but I think what they're trying to signal with this to all Jehovah's Witnesses around the world is that they just don't want you to think. You know, moral question, don't think about it. Political question, don't think about it. Social issue, don't think about it. Just don't think. Because that is the real danger for the Watchtower higher-ups, is that if people start thinking, they start leaving. So any opportunity they can get to slide this in here of shut your brain off, go to meetings, go out in service, donate some money, they are very happy. But anyway, a little rant, that's basically covers everything he talks about in this talk. Now we're going to transition into a video where we have some curious cases of Watchtower history.
Somebody please give me a purse right now, or I'm gonna do something crazy.
Well, hold your horses there, you little pipsqueak. Don't you know I wrote a handbook for people? You're not supposed to do that, so get on out of here. Get.
Golly gee willikers. Guess you win this round.
Ma'am, are you okay?
Thank you so much. How can I ever repay you?
Pay me, I'm the freaking sovereign lord of the universe.
All right.
But you know what you can do? Subscribe to the JW Thoughts channel. That guy, he's a pretty cool dude. So you have a good day, ma'am. I'm gonna fly out to space.
Like Jesus, true Christians have repeatedly demonstrated their determination to worship only Jehovah, no matter the cost. In 1916, the First World War was raging. Despite intense pressure to join the war efforts, many individuals refused to perform military service, including non-combatant support roles. Among them was Herbert Sr.
To me, there was no difference in principle between unloading shells from a ship and putting those shells into a gun to be fired. It was all part of the same process.
So just to shed a little bit more historical context to the whole situation here, Charles Taze Russell initially in his studies on the scriptures hadn't said that there is no participation in war, you have to remain neutral. He had a way of, well, you don't want to actively be pursuing the military as a career or anything, but if you get conscripted and you are forced by the government, you can try and be a conscientious objector and work in some type of medical field or at a factory, something to that effect. And if worse comes to worse and you have to put on the old uniform and be there in the trenches, well, maybe just don't shoot your gun. And then in 1915, they started to make some adjustments to that policy, which is actually talked about in their history book, God's Kingdom Rules, because I kind of remembered this dude, Herbert Sr. Why? I don't know. My brain likes to remember things for whatever reason. Anyway, I just want to read that because it does offer a little bit more historical context. However, the Watchtower of September 1st, 1915 began to refine our understanding of this issue. Regarding the recommendations made in studies in the scriptures, it said, "We wonder if such a course would not mean compromise. But if a Christian were threatened with being shot for refusing a uniform in military service, the article reason, would it be any worse to be shot because of the loyalty to the Prince of Peace and refusal to disobey his order than to be shot under the banner of these earthly kings and apparently giving them support and, in appearance at least, compromising the teachings of our heavenly King? Of the two deaths, we would prefer the former, prefer to die because of faithfulness to our heavenly King." Despite that forceful statement, the article concluded, "We are not urging this course. We are merely suggesting it." Some brothers saw the issues clearly and met it head on. Herbert Sr., quoted earlier, said, "To me, there is no difference in principle between unloading," the quote that he gave in the video. And then it goes and talks about more of his life. So just to be clear, that this wasn't a command from Watchtower. This wasn't in the canonical doctrine of Watchtower at this point in time, or I suppose the Bible students use the magazine, the Watchtower, whatever you want to call them, the Bible students. So it wasn't a directive. So when he says many brothers said this, well, many others didn't see it that way. And on top of that, the Jehovah's Witnesses weren't particularly this crazy, wild outlier. There were many conscientious objectors at this time. Even in this article, it said about Brother Senior, he and 4 other brothers were among a group of 16 conscientious objectors, including men from other religious denominations, who served some of their time at Richmond Prison in Britain and later became known as the Richmond 16. So it wasn't just the Jehovah's Witnesses. As far as this Richmond 16 goes, they only make up 25% of that. So yes, there were some Jehovah's Witnesses that took a stand at this time, but as an organization, they were not united. They were not unified. I know a Jehovah's Witness would be shocked to hear this, but a Jehovah's Witness back then actually had a choice. They could use their Bible-trained conscience and say, for me, I don't mind. I'm just in a factory making bullets. I'm just putting wheels on tanks. What are you going to do about it? And other people, they made a different choice, and that was all allowed. But it was not until later on that Watchtower started to really crystallize its doctrine and become more culty over time. I've made an entire video. I think it's the most viewed video on the channel. But back then, they were a little bit more loose with some of these things. They were like, no, this is how we do it. We must remain unified. We must all have the exact same thought in mind. Now they're just full of a bunch of beans in their head. Anyway, there's a little historical context for you.
Brother Senior and 4 other brothers were arrested, along with other conscientious objectors, handed to the army and imprisoned in filthy conditions at Richmond Castle, England.
Thinking it might encourage any brothers that might follow us, I found some lumps of chalk and made a large drawing on the cell wall.
Brother Senior sketched a timeline of events from one of the Watchtower publications. Later, he was secretly taken to France. After being forced to witness an execution, he was again asked to compromise his neutrality, but he refused. Senior was then sentenced to death by shooting. His sentence was later adjusted to 10 years hard labor.
So this is a classic case of you have to remain loyal to Jehovah's organization, but Jehovah's organization doesn't have to remain loyal to you. What do you reckon was on that timeline that he was writing? What do you think was on there in 1916 as he was drawing up a timeline? I don't know. Could it be that they just had a recently failed prophecy that all thought were going to heaven in 1914, and then bada bing, bada boom, you hit the old reset button. It's like in Lost when they press the button and the numbers go flipping, and the new numbers are 1918. Well, maybe we'll have to hit it again, and this time we'll get 1925. Whatever timeline he was writing ultimately proved to be a lie. Nothing more than a lie. It added no value to anyone's life. It couldn't be reinterpreted later as like, oh, we didn't claim the end was going to come in any of those dates. They absolutely, back then, had stated the end was going to come. And it didn't. So whatever timeline he was writing was ultimately a lie that he was told from an organization that had duped him, gave him the old hoodwink, had hit him with the old Barry Sanders juke maneuver, and left him just broke his ankles. He's just standing there looking like a fool. But hey, he went to prison for this organization, even wrote out a timeline to help encourage other people coming behind him. It's really incredible how they can show a video like this and even include the idea that he was writing out a timeline about a false prophecy that was a lie. Don't they think that someone, I mean, maybe Jehovah's Witnesses just aren't paying that much attention? Honest truth, that's probably the case. But if there are, and I think there are, a few, not the majority, but a few Jehovah's Witnesses actually paying attention to this, some of them might ask themselves, what the heck was on that timeline? And if they follow the advice given at this convention, they'll do a little bit of research, and they might find out a thing or two.
In 1940, Europe was engulfed in World War II. America had not yet entered the war, but emotions were running high.
Patriotism was at fever pitch. Mom had prepared us well to appreciate our stand on the matter of flag salute. And the class started, and my teacher then noted that I was not saluting. And so she shouted, "Stop!" And the children stopped saying the pledge, and she says, "When I say salute, I mean everybody salute." I knew that I had to be loyal to Jehovah. And I was wanting to explain the reason why I couldn't salute the flag, but she was just so angry. In fact, she saw my hand by my side, and so she took it to put it over my heart, and I resisted her, and that just infuriated her. So much so that she just took me and just threw me up against the blackboard. I hit my head, my nose was beginning to bleed, and I was very upset. That was in the late spring, and it was that summer that I was baptized.
Carrie Lewis was one of thousands of witness children in the United States who boldly declined to salute the flag.
So Jehovah's Witness children have to get beaten up at school by their teachers. They have to take a firm stand. They have to be expelled because they won't salute the flag. But if the organization runs into a few problems with the law, say in a country like Chile, and they have a special day where every institution is supposed to raise a flag, it's just one day. Put the flag, put it outside of a kingdom hall. We will display a flag because we don't want to pay a small fine. I'm not joking, that's real. The Jehovah's Witnesses will display flags outside of their kingdom hall instead of paying a small fine. I don't know if they still do it, but I know historically they did do it for many years. And that is just shocking. That would be a shocking revelation to anyone sitting and watching this video, to know that the organization doesn't want to have any bad publicity. They don't want to get involved in any ruckus. Let's just put a flag outside of a kingdom hall when the government tells us to. We don't want to get in trouble. And yet they're sitting here praising children that are getting expelled and beaten up at school. Like, what a double standard. But almost no double standard exists harder in the Jehovah's Witness scandalous history as the one that they're about to mention next.
In 1967, the Malawian government declared a ban of Jehovah's Witnesses, leading to horrific persecution. Many fled the country.
We refused to compromise and fled to the refugee camp in Mozambique. In 1975, we had to leave the camp. When we came back, we faced the neutrality issue again. When we started to build a house, the party members came. They wanted us to buy political party cards. If we bought them, the family could have a home, our children would be allowed to go to school, we could fund the land. We wouldn't be arrested and experience the horrible condition of the prison camp. But it meant compromising. We were determined to be loyal to Jehovah. Compromising my integrity was not an option. We trusted that Jehovah would care for us. And he did.
Now, I made an entire video about this whole scandal. I'll put a link in the description. Definitely go check it out if you are unfamiliar and get all the details there. But essentially, there was a double standard within the organization where Jehovah's Witnesses that lived in Mexico were able to obtain a political party card in a one-party state. They were even able to bribe government officials in order to obtain this card because everyone was having to do some or provide proof if you wanted to get a job or buy property or anything like that. You had to be able to show proof that you had done your time and gone through military training. But Jehovah's Witnesses were instructed from the world headquarters in New York that it was okay for them to bribe government officials and essentially pay for a fake card. At the exact same time, the other side of the world, in Malawi, there was the same issue. A one-party state in Malawi, and they needed to have a card, a political card. You could think of it as like a passport, essentially. Just a document saying, hey, yep, sure, I'm a resident of this place. Cool. And when they had gotten word of this, the headquarters in New York, they said, no, you're not allowed to do it. It would be a violation of your Christian neutrality. And as a result of that, people were slaughtered, had all of their property seized, thrown in jail, beaten up, like the most horrible things that you can possibly imagine. Now, again, I made a whole video on that, so if you want to get all of the details, and I probably explained it very poorly there in that quick little TLDR, but there you have it. One of the more curious things that I thought as I was watching this little recreation of what it was like, obviously it's not real footage, is the actual cards that they were showing. When they were putting them in their face, they kept showing it to the camera and then showing it to the people. They looked strangely authentic to me. We'd have to put on the old tinfoil butt plug here, but I'm just wondering if they purchased those political cards for this recreation. Because how insensitive is that? to say, no, back then you couldn't purchase these political cards to save your life. But in order for us to make our little skit, we're going to purchase these political cards. Again, I don't know. Maybe they're just kind of replicas. Whatever the case might be, though, did they really have to get authentic looking political cards to show on camera? I know Watchtower is all about fake authenticity, because you never want to look beneath the hood here. But I just thought, wow, what a creative choice to make. Whatever the circumstances surrounding that are, that just seems like a very interesting, creative choice to make when making this recreation. But anyway, go and check out that other video if you want more details about that, and let's move on to our present day.
We all face pressure to compromise our neutrality in today's political and social issues. Examples such as Sister Veronat Madonna, Sister Carrie Lewis, and Brother Herbert Sr., along with the unwavering example of Jesus, strengthen our determination to maintain exclusive devotion to Jehovah.
And because we're here, I have to bring it up. I made a whole deep dive video about the history of Jehovah's Witnesses and Christian neutrality, what Christian neutrality really meant. And I interweaved that with a curious story of Serena Williams participating in the Olympic ceremony. I thought it was a very fascinating, interesting little look at the entire situation. So again, I'll put a link to that one in the description below, but give it a watch, see what you think when it comes to, do the Jehovah's Witnesses make exceptions for celebrities? Because she is a baptized Jehovah's Witness as far as we know. I'm fairly certain we would have heard if she had gotten disfellowship, but we know she did get baptized very recently. And is out there doing commercials, wearing gym clothes, selling gym clothes that wouldn't be appropriate in this convention. Anyway, yeah, that is about all I have to say for this video. So I hope you guys did enjoy it. And as always, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to show yourself. Wow. Anyway, that's about all I have to say for this video. And as always, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. And if you're not already, consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 45,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I would very much appreciate it. Now go out and have a good ass day.